Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I want to go over all of the books that I read in December plus my end of year stats. So some fun little statistics for the entire year of 2024. So I basically, long story short, this is pretty much what I was doing all December. As you might know, if you were here for my December TBR video, out of that TBR, I read, pretty sure, 2 books. One of them was Glint, which was the next book that I needed to read in the Plated Prisoner series. And then one of them was the next book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. So I did read those 2, but every other book on that TBR, which I think there was, how many were there? I had 1, 2, 3, 4, I had 7 books on that TBR. It was Gleam by Raven Kennedy, Barbarian's Prize by Ruby Dixon, a Queen of Shadows reread, because I'm kind of in the middle of a Throne of Glass reread, Broken Vow by Sophie Lark, Heartless Sky, which is Zodiac Academy book number 7 by the Twisted Sisters, Whiskey Business by Elliot Fletcher, as well as A Perilous Undertaking by Deanna Raybourn. And a lot of those were chosen by my TBR jar. And what happened was I started reading, again, as you might know, the Plated Prisoner series. I wanted to read the next book in that series in a reading vlog. I think I was reading it while doing that reading vlog, and then that kind of snowballed into me having to read every single book in that series back to back because they were so freaking good, and the ending of every one of those books leaves you on a cliffhanger. So that's what happened. So I'm not gonna I will tell you the ratings and stuff, but I started off the month with Glint by Raven Kennedy, which is book number 2 in the Plated Prisoner series. Also, hopefully this lighting isn't absolute trash. It's very gloomy out today, but you know what? The show must go on. So that's what we're doing. Book 2 in this series, we follow Auren, and Auren she's been used her whole life. She's been literally kept in a cage, used, lied to, betrayed, and the way that you see her in book 1 is not, you feel bad for her, right? So many things have happened to her, you want better for her, and yet she doesn't even quite know to want better for herself yet. And so her character arc from book 1, from Guild through Goldfinch, is insane. One of the best character arcs I've probably ever read. Also, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but also in this series, the other thing that really stands out to me is the side characters. I think that Raven Kennedy wrote some really lovable side characters, and she puts enough into them that you start to really care for those characters as well, almost just as much as the main characters. So I love when that happens. I love fantasy series that have multiple point of views, lovable side characters, kind of a found family feeling. These books, for me specifically, this series, felt very atmospheric. They're all kind of wintry, for the most part. All of them are set in a wintry setting. And so they're perfect for winter, obviously. So if you are a seasonal reader, I do highly recommend reading this series in the winter if you can. But yeah, Glint for me, I rated 4.75. I'm pretty sure I rated most of these 4.75. They weren't quite that 5-star feeling, but they were a great time. Highly enjoyable, highly recommend. There are some darker themes in these books, so check your triggers, but great time. Great time. Enemies to lovers, you know the vibes. Then, straight after Glint, I went to book 3, which is Gleam. This is where they start getting a little bit chunkier, and was it this one? I think the way this one ends, hit myself in the face. I think the way this one ends, I was floored. I was so happy. I had goosebumps. I had to immediately go into the next one. So throughout this entire series, I had the physical copy out, and then I was reading on my Kindle. Something about reading on the Kindle, I feel like I can really just fly through the book. Gleam, again, I can't really dive too much into what happens in each separate book, so I'm going to not say too much, and then I'll just go over my overall thoughts for the series again at the end. But yeah, I immediately picked up Gleam, rated at 4.75 stars again. Amazing. I think Gleam, up to that point, was definitely my favorite of the series. And looking back, I think the first one, Guild, was probably my least favorite because that one feels more of just a setup book. But yeah, and then I took a little bit of a break from the series because I didn't really plan to read this series straight through. But it turns out after I took my break, I wanted to go back. So that's a great sign. Next, I picked up Barbarian's Prize, which I did talk pretty at length, I would say, about the next two that I'm going to talk about. So I'm not going to rehash all of that. If you want to see my thoughts more on this series and specifically Barbarian's Prize and Barbarian's Mate, then I would definitely go watch, I can't remember exactly what vlog it is. I'll try to like link it and also put a picture of it here. But so Barbarian's Prize, I believe I rated this one like 3.75. I liked this one a little bit more than any of the others that I've read so far. I believe this is book 5 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. This one follows Tiffany and her Big Blue Man. Again, I don't know if like saying his name is a spoiler. Usually the name's on the back, but I like this one a little bit more than the other ones because Tiffany has some deep-seated trauma, which made for a much more in-depth story. It felt less surface level in this one, so I really loved that, and I loved the relationship between these two. I thought it was really like sweet and tender, and yeah, I don't know. These books are not going to be for everybody, obviously, because they're about like big blue aliens, and that's just silly. But if you like a silly, goofy, fun time with spice, lots of spice, these books are great palate cleansers. So I read that one, and then I figured because I read this so fast, why not continue the vibe and go right into Barbarian's Mate, which I also owned. And I've owned both of these for quite a while. They've been sitting on my bookshelf for like probably a year or so. So the fact that I actually felt like reading them was great. So I've decided I'm just gonna read both of them right now. And I think I read both in like 2 days because they're quick, they're easy, they're short. Something about like her writing style, you can just devour it. So again, same kind of situation. You are on this ice planet with all of these women who basically they are abducted by aliens, but bad aliens, and then they crash on this planet and they basically end up getting saved by these good aliens, and romances ensue. And this one follows Josie and her big blue guy. They all follow a different character so far from like the original Crash. You do obviously, as the books go on, get introduced to some new characters, but Josie was one of the originals on that first ship. And see, this one to me didn't stick with me quite as much as the last one, and I rated this one 3.25. They're all in like the 3-star range, but like I said, I think Barbarian's Prize, the last one that I was holding up, that one so far is probably one of my favorites. I don't know. I like the first one a lot, but also, yeah, I would say that that one's one of my favorites. I enjoyed this one as well. I enjoy them all, but they all kind of like blend in your head. But with Ruby Dixon, the cool thing is, you know what you're gonna get, right? So if you are craving that like mindless, spicy romance, then these are a good choice. But yeah, so 3.75, 3.25, is that what I said? Somewhere around there. They were a great time, they were quick. I went straight back into Plated Prisoner series because I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was like, something I need to be better about, and one of my goals for 2025 is going to be better at continuing a whole series, if not back to back, then at least like pretty soon after reading the previous book, because the longer you let, or for me at least, the longer I let a series sit, the more that I don't really like have that urgency to pick up the next book. And then that's how I end up forgetting everything, and then I just don't finish the series. So I did not want that to happen with this, but I also was just like really wanting to pick them up. Next, I picked up book 4 in the Plated Prisoner series, which is Glow. Again, very chunky books. I'm pretty sure Glow, Gold, and Goldfinch are all like 600-ish pages, and yet I still read them all quite fast. Again, I can't like say exactly what happens each one, and for me, when I'm reading a long series like this, I don't exactly remember each book individually. I remember it the whole journey, like as a whole. The way that Gleam ends, like I said, had me so freaking excited, which honestly, looking back, I'm like, how did I actually take a break between these two books? I don't know. Again, I think it was just like something that I already planned to do. And then I was like, never mind, we are abandoning the TBR and we are just going to read the series, which I did. And Glow was an absolute joy to read. I just absolutely loved my time with this. Let me check my notes, because I feel like I had more to actually say with the individual books, which this is why I take notes, because if you know me, I forget things. Some crazy, crazy stuff goes down in Glow, and just wow. This is also when you start to get some more like character point of views added in. And like I said, some of those side characters are some of my favorites as well. That's Glow. I also rated Glow 4.75. So every book so far except for the first one. I don't remember exactly what I rated the first one because it was so long ago. But pretty much every book in the series except for the first one is 4.75. And then I went straight into Gold 5 in the Plated Prisoner series. And again, great time, 4.75. The book before this ended in a crazy way. And then this one just adds a whole new element. You get kind of like, I don't want to say a new setting, but you get like a dual setting type of a thing. So along with the multiple point of views, now you also have multiple different places, very different places. And this was so much fun. 4.75. What did I write about this one? Oh yeah, one of the side characters in this also has an insane character arc. One of the better ones that I've ever read, and I don't think I will forget this character because of that. And those side romances, oh my gosh, these subplot romances within these side character point of views are so good. Like, I don't know how Raven Kennedy did it, but she made me really care about those chapter point of views and romances. Sometimes like even more than the main plot, the main characters that you have from day one. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed those too, but like, I was so looking forward to some of these other characters' chapters, their romances. By this point, there were multiple romances, like 3, I think, at least, going on. And that just kept me really interested, really involved, because for me, in a series like this, once the main couple like gets together and that tension gets broken, I tend to start to lose a little bit of interest. That's actually kind of what happened to me with Jennifer Armentrout's FBAA From Blood and Ash like series. I became kind of just like not interested anymore, because once they get together, I mean, what do you have to look forward to when the tension's broken? But yeah, so I think she did a really good job at keeping you interested by kind of subtly threading in these new characters, these new romances. I loved this series. It was a great time, and I'm glad that I spent all of December reading these. So again, 4.75. Thus far, all of these have been, oh no, wait a second. Thus far, books 2, 3, and 4 were 4.75. This one, I can't remember exactly why, but I rated it 4.5. To me, it was a little bit less interesting than I think all of the other ones, in my opinion, but again, still a great time. Is this the one that I rated 4.5? I think so. There was one that I rated 4.5, and all the other ones were 4.75. Yeah, I can't like point to exactly a reason, but in the moment when I was rating this, I thought that it was just a little bit underneath the other ones. But again, they're all like high force. I went straight to the store because for some reason I didn't own this one yet, probably because it just recently came out. But I went straight to the store to pick up Goldfinch, which is the final installment in this series. And wow. I had a prediction that by the end of this series, I would finally rate one of them a 5 stars. And this was it. Round of applause, cue the confetti. This was great. I got everything that I wanted out of this. The ending of all this craziness that happens, and Oren's, character arc and all of that, it ended so perfectly in my mind. I know for some people they don't like, a nice little ribbon tied on the ending, but I need that. I want to know that my characters are happy. Goldfinch is a ride. I mean, Gold and Goldfinch are both a ride. They're not completely different plots from the first few, but like, if you know, you know. If you read them, you will understand what I'm talking about. They are a little bit of a different vibe because there's something different going on. I love how vague that I have to be when talking about series. It's funny because it's like, you guys are probably like, wow, you're saying nothing. Amazing, 5 stars. This one actually made me sob like the kind of crying where it hurts, like with Wisteria. Again, if you know, you know, if you were around for that reading vlog, I ugly cried for that. So I also was sobbing in this book, and wow, the main romance, I love the ending that we get. The things that those characters go through to be together is epic. Just everything about, I just love her. She is one of my new top favorite female main characters. Aaron, I love you. And I also really love, again, some of these side characters. Epic conclusion. I mean, I was doing all the things. I was giggling, I was swooning, I was blushing, I was crying. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like sitting straight. Like my husband would come out here and I'd be reading and I would be like sitting straight up and like leaned hunchback over my Kindle. That's how you know that you are really in a book. All I can say is these books, they will hurt you and then they will heal you. And that's really all I need out of a long romantasy series. So do I recommend this? Absolutely. But you're gonna wanna set aside some time to binge them, because the way that each one ends, I could not do anything other than pick up the next book. Like it wasn't even a question at that point in my mind. I basically told myself, like, the TBR that I set for December is just going to have to fall to the wayside. It just is what it is. But yeah, that is every book that I read in December, which is, oh wait, I forgot one. The one that I literally just finished. Hold on. Let me go get it. I'm back. I don't know how I forgot this. I just finished it last night. So I actually read 8 books in December. As of today, we have 2 days left of December, but today's almost over. So I think I'm gonna pick up a fantasy next. So in my mind, there's no way that I finish another book in this year. So we're going to assume that this is my last book of the year. I already did my reading journal, end of year stats, all of that. So after we go over this last book, then I will do my stats. But the very last book that I picked up in 2024 was Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. This is a book that I put on my want to read in 2025. And then the mood reader in me really couldn't stop thinking about this book and wanted to pick it up so bad. So just disregard that. But I got it read. That's all that matters. Again, Lana Ferguson, she is an auto-buy author for me. I've loved a lot of her books. The Fake Mate is my #1. And after reading this one, I would say The Fake Mate is still my favorite. Under Lock and Key, I ended up rating 3.75. Definitely not my favorite by her. Probably, dare I say, my least favorite by her. Not that it was like bad by any means. It was still entertaining. I thought that the premise was really unique. I mean, we're following a main male character that turns into the Loch Ness Monster. It's pretty unique. But I just feel like because of that, it was almost like too silly and unbelievable for me, which is like, okay, yeah, I get it. That's the point. There was just something about it that wasn't Courtney coded, if that makes sense. I mean, it was quick, it was easy, it was very spicy. Like, just know going into Lana Ferguson's books, they are very much open door. And they're usually like, I would say 4 to 4.5 out of 5 chili peppers of spice. So many, many scenes of spice. And I usually really like that in her books. I did like some of the spice that was in this, but because of the nature of it, with him being the Loch Ness Monster, some of it was like a little bit like, I don't know. I don't know. So there's that. Also, some of the dialogue between the characters was kind of cringing me out. I don't know why. It just seemed very like if 2 people were on a stage and just being as dramatic as possible, which maybe she meant this book to be more like a rom-com, which if you go into this kind of looking for a silly, goofy monster rom-com, then I think you will be better prepared and that you will possibly enjoy it if that's your thing, because that's kind of how it read to me. It was kind of like, I was getting like satire, I guess, from it. Hopefully I'm using that word correctly. Like I said, some of it felt kind of overly silly, and then the conflict, like the 3rd act conflict that often happens in romance books, I just found myself like not really, I don't know, being like, why are we doing this? Why are you getting mad? Let's move on. There's obviously bigger things going on here. Those are my thoughts. Those are my feelings. It's a romance. It follows this guy. They go to, well, she goes to Scotland, right, to like find her family who she's never met, and she ends up meeting him, and it's like immediate instant dislike between the two, and he's very like kind of like rude to her and she doesn't really know why. And lo and behold, the reason that he's the Loch Ness Monster is because there's a curse placed on him. So as not to spoil anything, I won't really say anything beyond that, but they end up having to like work together to try to see if they can break this curse, and their families are like rivals, and there's a lot of misconceptions and just things that he specifically has believed his whole life that he's trying to figure out, you know, if it's true or not. And yeah, that's basically the premise. I do think that the uniqueness and the premise of it was really good. I just, again, not my favorite by Lana Ferguson, but still an enjoyable time for what it was. So yeah, that now is every book that I read in December. So 8 books total. Moving on to my end of year stats, I spent all morning this morning updating my reading journal for 2024, making sure that all of my stats are here, which I always love seeing this at the end of the year. Cue the next segment, but in total, for the whole year of 2024, I read 114 books. My original goal was 80, which obviously I surpassed quite a while ago, but I didn't really feel like continuing to up it. I don't know. The reading goal for me isn't the end all be all. Like I don't feel like I have to reach it. It's just kind of like a fun thing to track. So I read 114 books. I read around 50,800-ish pages, so almost 51,000 pages in the year, which that's quite a bit. That's kind of crazy. Breakdown of physical versus ebook versus audiobook. Physically, I read 82 books. Ebook, I read 28, and then audio, I listened to 8. And there is some overlap, because if you were to go and add those 3 numbers up, it doesn't come out to be 114. But again, that's because some of my books I will read back and forth between the physical copy and the ebook, so when it comes time to track it, I don't always know exactly what category to put it in. So if there's overlap there, that is why. I read most of my books obviously physically, and one of my goals this year was to read more Kindle, like read more on my Kindle, which I think I definitely did, and I want to bring that with me into 2025 and try to read even more on my Kindle. The breakdown of star ratings, I had 4 DNFs for the entire year, which honestly isn't too bad. 1-star reads, I had none. 2-star reads, I only had 1. 3-star reads, I had 14. 4-star reads, I had 59. And I had 40 5-star reads, which, yeah, you could say I am pretty generous with my 5 stars. As the year's gone on, I think I've gotten a little bit pickier about giving books 5 stars, and who knows, maybe that strictness will continue into 2025, but as of 2024, that's how it stands. I had 40 5-star books. And my average star rating overall for the year was 4.2 stars. Again, I'm pretty easy to please. I tend to rate books like a 4 or 5 stars. And honestly, that's a good thing. If I'm enjoying most of the books that I read, I consider that a success. So that's that. And then moving on to genres. For the year, dun dun dun. The genre that I read the most of is, as you can probably guess, romance. They're just so easy to rip through quickly. So I read 53 romances in 2024, and I read 42 fantasies. Those are like my 2 top categories. Again, obviously. Lit fic, just like general fiction. I don't even know if literary fiction is different from general fiction, but we'll just say general fiction. I read 5. YA, I read 12. Again, there is some overlap though between like books that I categorized as fantasy, but then also realized that they were YA. So 12 might be a little more, take it or leave it, but we'll just say that I read 12 YA books. I read 3 mystery and or thriller books, and I read 1 sci-fi this year. So as far as breaking out and diving into some, you know, different genres, I do think that I kind of did that. 5 general fiction books is not bad. Looks like about 9 or 10 books out of my total this year were outside of my two main genres. So I would say that I would consider that, you know, meeting that goal, because obviously for most of the year I want to read the things that I am the most excited for and the most into. But I did get out of my comfort zone and I did enjoy some of those other books. Okay, so, and then moving on to my pages read spread in 2024. I just did this like bar graph, and looking at it now, my best reading month, like the month that I read the most pages, was in June, and the second best month was March. And then my two, I'm not gonna say worst, because like it's not a big deal, but my least read pages month was November, probably because I had just moved and was in a bad reading slump. And then my second least read month was May, for I have no idea what reason. But yeah, just a fun little visual way to see that stat. I already did my reading wrap up. This book journal also has a little section for like they have like quarterly check-ins, but I'm looking for the yearly section. 2024 reading wrap up. So my favorite books of this year, number one, I would say, I mean, it's so hard to kind of rank them like that, spot by spot, but if I had to choose a favorite, just purely based on the emotions that it pulled out of me, Wisteria. Like, you already know, guys, you know it's gonna be Wisteria. It has to be. And then also When the Moon Hatched. Like, those are my top two books of 2024. Highly recommend if you have not read them. My favorite series, again, I can't just pick one, so Plated Prisoner, the Three Dark Crowns series by Kendare Blake, as well as the Belladonna series. Those three are ones that I just don't stop thinking about. And then my favorite standalone and also my favorite book cover of the year would have to go to The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I've also talked about this a couple times. Yeah, that cover is so magical and glowy, and I'll insert a picture because I'm too lazy to go get it, but so beautiful. Love that cover. My favorite TV show of the year, I picked two. Gilmore Girls is a classic, and it's not like new to me this year, but I watched more of it this year than I ever have before, so I would have to say Gilmore Girls. And then a new favorite TV show is Arcane. I'm obsessed. Obsessed, can't stop thinking about it. Really hope they make a new season and that they don't take as long as they did between first season and the second season. Number of books hauled this year. I went back through, because there's a little spot in each month to keep track of how many books I bought. I hauled around 110 books. So I acquired a lot of books this year. And you know what? I would have to say that it was probably also around that number last year. I don't know how that's going to look going forward. I do need to do a big book unhaul. Hopefully it'll be a big unhaul, but I need to do an unhaul in the new year to make room for some more books. I'm hoping that I don't buy that many in 2025, but then again, sometimes you just really want to go book shopping, and I'm also not going to deprive myself of that, so I'll have to see. I'll have to see with that if I want to make that into a goal or not, or if I just want it to be something that's in the back of my mind to kind of be a little bit more picky about the books that I actually buy physically and continue to utilize Kindle Unlimited. I'm pretty sure that is it for my 2024 stats, my yearly reading wrap up, plus my December wrap up. I would love to know below, how many books have you read this year, or what were your favorites, what were your least favorites, literally anything that I've gone over. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here and joining me on my booktube journey this year. I'm really hoping that I continue to stick with the video making in 2025. And yeah, I would also love it if you could let me know like what videos you like to see in general, and also what videos you might like to see from me in 2025, so that I can kind of keep those in my thoughts and on my radar for booktube for the year. Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, and do all the YouTube things, and I will catch you next time. Bye!